super fast intro. I wrote this little entry a while ago about how my grief as a child when I was being abused was dismissed and totally just shit on, and how I noticed that follows people into their adulthood as well. So this is what I wrote. You treated me like my honesty was audacity, like my vulnerability over the abuse and the physical, emotional, and mental violence that came out of me was an over-exaggeration, when the truth is, 99% of the things I did share with you wasn't even touching the tip of the iceberg. I barely told you anything, and even if I had told you everything, it doesn't matter. It was still worthy of being taken seriously for what it was, instead of a slope for you to project your unresolved grief about your own life and your privilege of inexperience of the things that made me wish I could die onto. It conditioned me to believe that I was only allowed to feel sorry for you and your grief toward your loving, dead mother, and I was not allowed to be honest with others or even myself about my grief toward my living, abusive mother. At a certain point, I stopped feeling sorry for you when I realized that the pity you held toward yourself in those moments where I expressed honesty toward myself was rooted in bitterness. It was reality dismissal and willful apathy. How some people can claim to be such compassionate human beings while having a sense of selective empathy toward children who are being abused is beyond me. I will never forget what it felt like to be looked at like I didn't deserve to be believed. You acted like you were the only orphan in the room after your mom died, as if I hadn't been standing in the orphanage alone since day one. I was living through what that word meant long before you walked in and experienced what it felt like to have that word become a part of your identity. For me, it was not something that became. It was just something that I always was. My favorite Disney movie as a child was The Rescuers. I had a teddy bear just like Penny. His name was Teddy too. I used to talk to my stuffed animals at night and hope that they would come alive and save me from my home. I was so disappointed when they didn't. I hoped that somebody would save me from my mom the same way that the mice in The Rescuers saved Penny from her shitty orphanage mom. Remember the crazy motherfucker with the red hair? She was like super mean to Penny. Yeah. Saved me from the abuse. I lived in a fairy tale world in my head where if I looked out the window long enough and hard enough and wished hard enough, one day I would be saved. Maybe that star that shined extra bright was filled with Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. Maybe they would visit my windowsill. If I just wanted it bad enough, maybe it would happen, right? If magic exists, why can't I be a recipient of it? No kid should know what it feels like to want to be rescued from their own home, from their own family, from their own parent or parents. The way you treated me when I started to come forward about being abused by my mom made it very clear that you had no idea, but also no ounce of empathy for what it felt like to spend a day in my shoes. But I was so young that I didn't understand I was being gaslit as much as I was. You related to Harry because he was an orphan, but only after your mom died. I spent my entire life feeling like Harry, and not just because he had no parents, but because I also faced the battle of child abuse and domestic violence. You were Harry, but with memories of being loved and alive, and an endless safety net of love and protection, of family when death did knock at the door of your mom. I, on the other hand, was the Harry that grew up in the closet under the stairs, the Harry that grew up abused and unsafe in his own home, the Harry that had Uncle Vernon and Petunia and fucking Dudley instead of families like yours, the Harry that had to navigate grief held by no one's hands except his own. The only difference between me and Harry is that no Hagrid came knocking on my door. I wasn't whisked away to a magical world of love and friendship and safety and home and my own family. I just stayed stuck under that fucking staircase. Okay, yeah, so that was what I wrote, and the rest of this video is gonna be my reflections I wrote on that reflection. If you got it this far, I'm so glad you're listening, and I'm so glad you're here. You don't even know. No, that entry was about trying to heal the feeling of being given evil eye from somebody that I was friends with for a long time during my childhood. Her mom died when we were in high school, and I never felt like I had permission to grieve. And that feeling of when your mom is your abuser, you're not allowed to grieve because she's alive, altered my nervous system, my brain, my sense of self-worth. And that's not the entire point in the video. It's not this person, but that person did lead me to feel that way. And when I reflect on that part of me that feels broken and all the healing that I've had to do and continuously have to do, that's a big part of it. And that's just my story. But obviously, this isn't to blast them or blast other people like that. But that's part of my fucking story. And anyway, the rest of this isn't necessarily going to be about them. It's more about the things that I experienced as a whole, with that definitely obviously being a central aspect of it. So here we go. I will never forget the day that CPS pulled me out of class. I was so young that I did not realize how young I was, because the trauma gives you wisdom beyond your years. It comes at a cost of a stolen youth, though, and you don't realize that your boobs aren't even fully developed. This is a lot darker than just a person experiencing it. It's a kid. Anyway, I remember that day, and I remember walking back to my next class. The bell had rang while I was talking to the CPS worker, and so I had to walk in late to my next class. I was holding back tears and eventually had to get up and leave. I sat on a picnic table outside the classroom, and a couple girls followed after me. One of them put her hand around my back and asked what was wrong. I will never forget that. I had just been crying for like that week or before that week, when the last time a person put their hands on me, my lips split open and I nearly had to get stitches in my face. This hand across my back was so comforting, so well-intended. The other girl looked at me like it was safe for me to talk about whatever was going on. It seemed like they genuinely cared. Maybe they were just curious. I don't know, but I felt like they cared. I went to open my mouth, desperate for someone, something to see me, to hear me, to feel me, to help me. I wasn't just going to tell them something that happened. I was about to tell them something that happened, which was just a link to a million other things that had actually been happening forever. But as soon as my lips parted, I felt evil eye in the back of my head from someone close to me at the time. Someone whose mom had just died, and my entire body tensed up. I don't think that was ever her intention, the owner of this glare, but it didn't matter, because intention or not, I felt the effects of it, and it traumatized me. It changed me. It rewired my brain and made me feel worthless in ways that I didn't even know I felt worthless. The thoughts and the gaslighting, the guilt tripping me into shutting up and being grateful, no matter how covert and how seemingly minor, was intended enough somewhere inside of her to make me feel it. And I did. And that day was the first day that I realized I wasn't allowed to ask for help, to talk about or even communicate with people about what was going on at home and how it was hurting me. I was endangered, and I was expected to be grateful for my life being endangered and treated like it didn't matter. In middle school, I started fantasizing about dying, about never waking up. Then it turned into daydreaming about my body laying still, lifeless, and not feeling my breath exist inside my body, but just outside of it. I remember being young enough to still have butterflies taped to my wall by my bunk bed, but old enough to understand what was happening. I remember learning that there was a word for when my friend... I remember learning that there was a word for how I felt when my friend whispered in my ear on the school bus, "It means you want to kill yourself." When a group of us were talking about Ayaz's new song, and they brought up that the explicit version said suicidal instead of in denial. I was born in the late 90s, so in middle school, we had Ayaz poppin', okay? Ayaz was the GOAT. Take You There, bro, I listen to that still. I go hard to Ayaz. Anyways, I craved to take every part of me that existed outside of me. Sorry. I craved to take every part of me that existed outside my body and exist outside of it forever. To live in a world where the love that I felt inside of me was not just limited to inside of me, but was everywhere I looked. People in this world love to bypass the realities of those of us that did not grow up in environments where we were privileged enough to have access to safe people. So, we know the other side of cliches. Sure, love isn't everything. In one sense, that is true. But there also exists a world that is opposite, where love is not around you, where it really is inside of you, and every corner of every room that you turn to, it's not only gone, but there's lovelessness and cruelty and suffering waiting for you in those corners. It's not just the absence of love, it's the presence of lovelessness that seeps into the cracks. And it's not because of what we can't see or don't want to or aren't vibrating high enough to see. It's because being in an abusive family and or like relationship or abusive community period is the physical embodiment of that world. Whether or not people who don't get that like to acknowledge it. Because some of us are born having to. I know what it feels like to want to die. And unfortunately, I know that for several reasons. But the first reason is my mom. The first person who gave me life and brought me into this world was the first person who taught me what it felt like to want to leave it. The part of my brain that knows how to write stops working when I try to find a place to start because I've never had words to explain any of it. I don't even think I want to try. There are so many kids out there who are experiencing what I went through at that age, and so many of them either don't speak or they speak and aren't listened to for the same reasons that I endured. The same reasons that I felt and actually was legitimately told by many people to stay silent about. Being suicidal or even just sad and grieving because of your parents or parent is not seen as an acceptable form of grief by most people in our society. It is seen through the lens of the eye that closed up my throat when those girls asked me what was wrong. Remember the first thing I wrote? It sees the grief that an abused child has toward their guardian as a disgrace, as an audacity, as an absence of gratitude. Like we must just have our heads so far up our ass to not be grateful for these people that do nothing but hurt us. Our grief is even seen as delusion, as if we aren't understanding enough about our parents to see them in a higher esteem, even though we, as their victims, understand and see everything about them because we see who they show other people they are in addition to who they show us they are behind closed doors first. And those are where the true colors come out. It's not who you are when you go off and live your life in public or in communities that you feel like is a good place to share your other face. No, it's behind closed doors. It's what happens when no one's looking, but you can feel everything. I saw my mom's face before her hand slapped me across mine so bad that it broke my glasses, made me so dizzy that I fell over and hit my head, and saw my own blood spattered across the kitchen floor. I was so young that when this happened, for a split second, the moment I tasted blood in my mouth, I thought, I wish this was because the tooth fairy was coming tonight. But it was just 'cause of my mom. I saw her face again when she realized what she had did, and I got up holding onto the wall to get my balance. And she went back and hit me 10 times harder and 10 times longer. She was getting off to it. She knew what the fuck she was doing and she knew I was defenseless. She thought I deserved it because she projected every ounce of unresolved fuckery that she had inside of her onto me. There's no such thing as the black sheep as people like to define it. There's just the truth teller and the scapegoat child. It's so much easier to label us off as eccentric or complicated because we are a complication to a dysfunctional system where abuse is not only enabled and protected, but enacted with pride. The room was blurry, and all I could hear was my own screams the second I got up. Sorry, I went on a tangent. I saw her face, her body language, her actions, her lies, her cruelty seeping out from her lips like poison to my youth as she told the cops that she just had no choice because she wasn't listening. She's out of control. I learned very quickly that the police were not my friends. Initially, I remember thinking, they must understand that they're dealing with a criminal when they see one, right? They're supposed to be who we call when something bad happens or someone hurts us, right? Wrong. You're a minor. Deal with it, or we'll send you to Hillcrest. Do you want to go to Hillcrest? You got friends that go there? Do you want us to go make you make fucking friends at Hillcrest? A man 5 times my size yanked my ponytail on my 10-year-old head back the first time I saw a police officer in my own home, and I realized that I was not safe anywhere. My safety not only wasn't a priority or something for them to see as valuable enough to protect. In fact, it was a joke to most of them, and they all derived pleasure from hurting me. My best friend, my family, and even the police. Oh, you know what was crazy too is I remember one night, one of this cop came in and started giving me shit, and I literally was like crying, and I was like, how come you don't believe me? Like, what the fuck? And she was one of my DARE officers from 5th grade. So this bitch, I remember thinking the audacity of this fucking cunt to come into a room full of 5th graders when I was in 5th grade and tell us, we're the good guys, we're who you can trust, call us if things go wrong. And then years later, she's in my fucking house, literally gaslighting me when my life is kind of at stake. Fucking bitch. Officer RJ, you are a fucking bitch. I tracked your name down. I couldn't find you. And if I ever fucking see you again one day, I probably won't. But if it's a small enough world for me to run into you, I will give your ass fucking handed to you with my middle finger, you bitch. Ugh. My best friend, I don't talk about this much, so y'all are getting it, okay? My best friend, my family, and even the police and CPS made it clear to me that my safety and my health was not valued anywhere. The subtle guilt tripping of my pain, the suffering, and the expectation of me to praise my mom like she was a god, when she was not even a good person, took precedent over the abuse and the hell I was living through. I now not only wanted to stop waking up in the morning, but I started thinking for ways to make it happen myself, since wishing on birthday candles wasn't working. I was truly alone, and when I did try to reach out, I learned how fast people were to dismiss the fact that I had not a mother, but an abuser. People seem to think that just because I came into this world through her womb, that this automatically armed me with whatever love and grace and warmth that they were lucky enough to receive from their own mothers. People project their love for their family onto kids that grow up in abusive families so easily and so fast, it's not even funny. My cries for help were seen as a lack of gratitude and ignorance to quote unquote how good I had it, as my own problem and not theirs. But y'all could watch episodes of crime shows and see kids getting tortured by adults, and your heart bleeds for them. But when it came to me, your friend, your classmate, your sibling, your cousin, your daughter, your teammate, your fucking anything, your peer, none of you gave a damn. I was the scapegoat, labeled as many different things, the troublemaker, as my cousin liked to put it, the anger issues, the weird one, the crazy one, all la la. And to the ones around me with dead loving mothers, I was the unspeakable one. I was doing the unspeakable in their eyes by speaking about the unspeakable, about my living abusive mother. You tried to write off my pain and my suffering as ungrateful or selfish, as if it wasn't laying underneath my fingernails from having to claw my way out of fucking like a giant dirt hole of suicidal crap in my own home. Hellishness that was given to me by the person in my life who you compare in yours to heavenly. The privilege of ignorance of not, or you had the privilege of being ignorant to experiences that you literally probably wouldn't have even lasted a fucking day through. And when people do that, it's a problem because that's not how you fix things. That's just how you put ugly ass fucking band-aids over them, and then it gets worse. I wonder every day what my life would have been like if I had been able to receive the help and support that I needed during that time, whether it was from social services, social circles, or even both. Instead, I just became more suicidal. There was something sinister and sick about how common it is for people to stigmatize other people's grief about loss and abuse in their lives, to the point where we blame the abused for the abuse. Specifically in the case of child abuse, it is sinister and sick how easy it is for people to weaponize their own grief and their own positive perceptions about their loved ones, their parents, onto the lives of people who have had abuse in the place where others have had love. It feels like coming up for air after drowning, just to have your head shoved back down while the hand doing it tells you you're shameful for expecting air, and that you are just crazy for talking about how drowning feels. You're ridiculous to talk about how clogged your lungs are with water. You're crazy. You're pissing me off. You're a bitch to beg for your life as you're being forced to inhale water against your will. Crazy, right? Yeah. We are all responsible for our own lives, but we are also responsible for how we treat other people, and especially how we treat them in their moments of trauma and suffering. It is not normal for the selective empathy toward abused children and young adults to exist. We don't get to decide whose lives are worthy of being treated with dignity by excluding stories that we'd rather downplay than face head on from a place of honor and clarity. Not everyone who has biological, living mom and or dad that raised them has a mom and or dad. Let me say that again. Not everyone who has living parents has a mom or a dad. We are not on some magical boat where we get to live out your dream of having one any more than you do. Your death, and this is a hard truth that people are not ready to accept because they think it invalidates their grief, but really, it just validates ours. And if us validating our grief toward our abusers makes you feel invalidated about your privilege of not having abusers, then you're fucking weird, dude. That's a narcissistic ass POV, okay? Your death of your loving parents is hard. And no, people like me cannot imagine or could never understand what it feels like. And the reason why I can't imagine what it feels like to miss and lose something so beautiful is because we never fucking had it to begin with. Period. I don't like comparing grief, but if you want to take it there and play the game, then let's do it right, okay? Let's do it in a way that honors the truth of each side, because I've seen my side get spit on for too damn long now, and there are kids out there right now that are feeling the weight of that saliva, and they might not make it out alive, and maybe they could, but who knows if the people that they open up to about it are actually going to do something. You'll grieve the loss of not only a person, but of love, of being loved, feeling that love, and experience a safe and stable connection with the place and the person that you come from. You're grieving something healthy. You're grieving something that was great. Abused kids, like myself and millions of others, grieve not only the loss of that, but the absence of its roots to begin with. And not only that, but the pain of not being able to relate. The pain and the loss of innocence, the darkness that surrounded my childhood, and the abuse that took its place. Do you know how much that's not something that was beautiful and gone and now I get or have to move on? I'm not denying the hardness of that, but the hardness of like that, of loss of love that never happened, plus all of the trauma, like waking up every day knowing that no matter what happens to you, good or bad, especially the ugly parts of life, you are not even worthy of having the phone answered or being told I love you or being asked do you need help. Like I have to deal with every fucking day the grief of somebody who was supposed to love me, the one person in the world that was supposed to love me, not even caring about my life. That's what happens when you have an estranged parent. Your life is worthless to them. And we all deep down crave that unconditional love and safety from our parents. So we're both in the same boat when it comes to not having that. I just have the extra spice of being fucking shanked in the heart every day of my life. And every time I try and reach out, I almost die because the shaking really gets that bad. Yes, I'm being metaphorical, but you get what I'm saying. I grieve love that was never given and the abuse and lovelessness that took its place, so double wear me. I remember hearing one time, I can't remember exactly what this person said, but I remember being with someone and they were like, I know that, like, you know, you guys haven't had the best relationship, but you might wanna, like, I can't remember if she said forgive or start seeing her or something, because one day she might be gone and you'll never get the chance to get her back. That familiar feeling in my throat creeped over myself again. How the fuck is somebody who thinks like that about everybody's mom, everybody's parents, supposed to understand how ignorant and apathetic that is? As if I hadn't dreamed every single day. As if I still don't sometimes dream of what it would be like to have a mom, to have a mother in my life, to have a parent that gives a shit about me. Her being alive does not give me an advantage that you don't have, and it doesn't give me the opportunity to have someone in my life or have them around, because there is no part of my life that gets to experience life with a mom when your mom is an abuser. There's no chance of things being different, or no one day in the future where things get better. There's no magical fucking jackpot at the end of the rainbow, because there's no rainbow with those type of people to begin with. And trust me, I had to nail this into my head a million times over, and my relationship with my mom and my dad is like a drug. Every time I try and go back, even when I fucking lowered my standards and was willing to take shit from them, or when I set boundaries and communicated respectfully, like what can't fly anymore in our relationship, it still don't work. I just get abused for it every fucking time, dude. That's how it works with these people. They're not parents, they're abusers. They make their kids want to die. That's not normal. That's not how parents that truly do not love their children, or sorry, that's how parents that don't truly love their children work. You think it's easy for me to sit here and say all these things as if I haven't gone through the suicidal motions of realizing that no matter how much I try or compromise or even get to the point of begging, no matter how many boundaries I set and efforts I make, I will never have a mom in that woman. I will never have a parent in her. I'll never have a relationship outside of being a victim to her abuse. Do you know what it feels like to come to those realizations? That's what it feels like to feel someone die. You feel the fantasy of something that you never even experienced crumble, and you realize that's not your reality. That's not a card you're gonna get, hun. You can't change that. I can't change that. I had to get to the point in my life where I realized that things were not gonna change, and the only change that could happen is me stop pouring my heart into connection, where who I wanted to be on the other side was not and never was. I do not have any more of a chance at having a relationship with my living abusive mother than the chance that people have to have a relationship with their dead loving mothers. That is something I have spent my whole life witnessing people not understand. You will never understand that unless you understand what it feels like to look at the person who brought you into this world and wonder, what does it feel like to have a mom? I idolized all my friends' moms. I really did. When I would go over to my friends' houses, I would like totally hang out with them and their moms. And like, I fucking loved them. I remember being embarrassed one time too, because one of the girls on my dance team, I would like text her mom occasionally. And I'd be like, you're like a mom to me. And I was like, that's so embarrassing. Like, my actual mom is sleeping in the next room, and I'm trying to like source motherly love and affection from this girl who like literally isn't my fucking mom, you know? But that's what my life was like. I craved affection and attention and care from older women. Not like any older women, but like literally like my close friend's mom, you know? And that's really fucking sad. Like, I'm not even trying to pity myself. I'm just saying for the kids, you know, like there are kids out there that feel like that, and that deserves to be said. Instead of educating yourself and trying to understand where I'm coming from, You take out your own frustration and pain from your own loss, and you take it out onto children and young adults who are suffering from abuse, or onto adults who had to go no contact with their parents. You are unlucky that your mom or your dad died, but you are so incredibly lucky to not understand the experience of grieving the living. We didn't get a funeral or a sympathy. We got shame and reality dismissal. We got shut up and take it. This is not an invalidation to your trauma, it's a validation to mine and people who share my pain. Also, going no contact is not a trend that derives from pettiness. It is a term derived from the grief that you do not understand. My mom is not out of my life because I took her out. She was never there to begin with, and when I decided to stop chasing a version of her that didn't exist and wasn't going to, I had to do that to save my own life. Do you understand what it looks like to have to spend your life surviving your parents? Your parents are supposed to be the main people that help you survive and thrive. Not the case for people who are abused by their parents, not the people who have abusers in place of where mom and dad should be. I had to learn how to protect myself from my own mom. I had to learn how to save my life from the person who gave me life. How can you feel like the unseen victim in the face of something so serious and filled with so much suffering is so ironic, because the mere fact that you feel that way is exposing the victim that you don't want to see, aka the person you resent for quote unquote having what you don't. Don't worry, I don't have it either. No other abused kid on the planet with abusive parent or parents have it either. So if your misery loves company that much, I don't know what to tell you. Hope that made you feel better. Hope you grew a fucking inch of dignity in your heart like the Grinch. Hope you never look at kids that are in my shoes and adults that are in my shoes and fucking look at our footprints like we are just ignorant to the blessings around us. We're just aware of the misfortunes that are around us. And that's true. And if you don't respect that, then fuck you. You shouldn't have wasted your time with this video. Also, thank you to anybody who did watch this video and did relate. I mainly did this for us, okay? Because I know that most people that don't understand this don't have the mental or emotional capacity to hold and process what I'm saying. They don't want or have the space to see it, which is ridiculous because they're the ones that need to. Those mentalities of you're not allowed to grieve or ask for help or be sad or mad or upset about the abuse you're experiencing, that's how people get marginalized. That's how problems don't go away. That's how abuse continues to be enabled, protected, and enacted. That's fucking annoying, right? So yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna post this. I always record things, then I get scared of posting it, but then I'm like, I don't know. The internet's just mean, but I don't care anymore. I know what I stand for, and I know where it comes from, and this is the truth. And if you don't want to hear it, then you don't care about kids. Like the truth about child abuse and how kids that get hurt become suicidal, it's a different story for everyone. And I'm not saying that everything that I said or am sharing is the carbon copy version of everyone's story, but the fact that I know anybody else who's been suicidal because of their parents at any point in their life is gonna understand everything I'm saying kind of says it all. So, you know, if you consider you're somebody who cares about kids' safety, and not just kids but adults too, like adults are just kids that have aged a lot, you know? Yeah, we're not kids anymore, we're adults, but regardless of anybody's age, their relationship with their parents, if they have abusers instead of parents, you're either going to understand and empathize properly or you're not going to understand. But if you don't understand, then that's when it's time to educate yourself. Because when you don't educate yourself on shit like this, you're just perpetuating the cycle that ruins people's lives and ends kids' lives every day. There's a kid being beaten to death in a foster home right now. There's a kid getting sexually abused by her dad or her your mom or whoever. Like, there's actual evil ass shit going on. So don't act like you care and then continue to marginalize people that you claim to care about.